Open her bag. Claire Whitmore said it loudly enough for every conversation in Adrian Park's dining room to die at once. 20 guests stood beneath crystal chandeliers, surrounded by polished marble, white roses, and champagne glasses that suddenly seemed too delicate for the silence filling the room. Maya Bennett remained beside her housekeeping cart near the service entrance, one hand resting calmly against the folded towels she had been replacing when Claire announced that her diamond bracelet was missing. I left it upstairs less than 30 minutes ago, Claire continued, her eyes fixed on Maya. She was cleaning that hallway. Maya felt every face turned toward her. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked curious. None of them knew her well enough to defend her. Thomas Reed, the estate manager, stepped forward. Miss Whitmore, perhaps we should search the room first. Claire gave a humorless smile. We already did. Then she looked at Maya's canvas work bag hanging from the cart. Open it. Maya's pulse quickened, but her voice remained steady. You may search it. Thomas hesitated before taking the bag. Inside were Maya's wallet, keys, hand lotion, a paperback novel, and a container from the staff kitchen. No bracelet. A few guests exchanged embarrassed glances. Claire did not. Instead, her attention shifted downward. What about the cart? Thomas turned. Between two stacks of clean white towels sat a small burgundy velvet pouch that had not been there when Maya stocked the cart earlier. Maya's stomach tightened. Claire pointed immediately. That is mine. Thomas lifted the pouch, but did not open it. Maya, I have never seen it before. Claire let out a quiet breath of disbelief. Of course you have not. Maya looked at the cart. Something was wrong beyond the obvious. The handle was facing the wall. She never parked it that way because the narrow service corridor required her to pull forward when leaving. Someone had moved it. Before Maya could speak, footsteps sounded from the entrance hall. Adrian Park entered wearing a dark charcoal suit, followed several steps behind by an associate. The Korean Mafia Boss did not need to ask why the room was silent. His gaze moved from Claire to Thomas, then to Maya and the velvet pouch. What happened? Claire answered before anyone else could. Your maid stole from me. Adrian's expression did not change. That is an accusation. I asked what happened. Claire's face tightened. My bracelet disappeared. That pouch was found in her cart. Adrian looked at Maya. For 3 weeks, he had barely spoken more than a few sentences to her at a time, yet his attention now rested on her without contempt and without reassurance. He was waiting. Maya understood that whatever she said next would matter. Claire crossed her arms. Surely we are not going to pretend this is complicated. Maya looked once more at the pouch, then at Claire. Something about the certainty in the woman's face bothered her. Not suspicion. Certainty. Claire had not asked where Thomas found the pouch. She had pointed toward the cart before anyone opened anything. Maya slowly raised her eyes to Adrian. Mr. Park, I did not take her bracelet. Claire gave a dismissive laugh. Maya did not look at her. And before you decide whether you believe her, Maya continued, her voice quiet enough that the entire room had to listen, ask why she knew exactly where to look. Adrian turned toward Claire. The room went silent again. 3 weeks earlier, Maya Bennett had arrived at the Park estate at 7:15 on a Monday morning, wearing a freshly pressed housekeeping uniform and carrying everything she needed in one canvas work bag. She had expected wealth. She had not expected silence. The mansion stood beyond a long private drive outside New York City, all pale stone, tall windows, and carefully trimmed hedges. Inside, marble floors reflected soft morning light, while employees moved with the practiced efficiency of people who understood that discretion mattered as much as cleanliness. Thomas Reed met Maya near the service entrance. Mr. Park values privacy, he explained while showing her the household schedule. Do your work well, respect closed doors, and you will have no problems here. Maya nodded. That sounds reasonable. Her first days passed quietly. She cleaned guest suites, polished furniture, changed linens, and learned which rooms Adrian Park used most often. She rarely saw him for more than a few seconds. The Korean Mafia Boss carried himself with controlled authority, usually dressed in dark suits, surrounded not by noise, but by the strange stillness powerful people sometimes created around themselves. He never treated Maya warmly, but he never treated her as invisible either. On her 4th afternoon, Maya found a luxury watch beneath a sofa in the library. She placed it in a clean cloth and carried it directly to Thomas. Guest property? She asked. Thomas examined it. Very expensive guest property. Neither noticed Adrian standing near the library entrance until he spoke. It belongs to Mr. Lawson. Maya turned. I found it beneath the sofa. Adrian looked from the watch to her. Thank you, Miss Bennett. That was all. A week later, Maya entered an upstairs guest suite after a weekend meeting and found a thick envelope behind a chair. Inside were $4,100 bills. She counted them once, closed the envelope, and walked downstairs. Adrian was speaking with Thomas near the study when she approached. This was in the West guest room. Thomas opened it and raised his eyebrows. For $1,000. Maya handed him the envelope. Then somebody is probably looking for it. Adrian watched her carefully. You counted it. To make sure I could report the amount. And you brought it straight here. Maya gave him a puzzled look. Where else would I bring it? Something almost resembling approval crossed Adrian's face. Fair question. From the sitting room doorway, Claire Whitmore had witnessed the exchange. She was a prominent donor in Adrian's charity circle and had been visiting the estate often while preparations were underway for an upcoming private dinner. Claire smiled when Adrian looked toward her, but the expression vanished the moment he turned away. Over the next several days, Maya began noticing Claire's eyes following her through rooms. Not because Maya had done anything wrong, because Adrian had noticed when she did something right. Maya did not understand why that mattered to Claire until one afternoon when a cup of coffee slipped from senior housekeeper Lillian Brooks's tray and spilled across a side table. Claire stepped back sharply. Do people here receive any training at all? Lillian's face reddened. Before she could apologize, Maya approached with a towel. It was an accident. I will take care of it. Claire looked directly at her. Did anyone ask you? Maya knelt beside Lillian and began blotting the coffee before it reached the rug. No, she said calmly. She needed help. Neither woman noticed Adrian standing in the hallway. Claire did, and when she saw his expression, something cold settled behind her smile. After the coffee incident, Claire Whitmore stopped pretending Maya Bennett was invisible. Her attention became deliberate. She began asking Maya to carry coats that were already within reach, replace glasses that were still full, and straighten rooms Claire had barely entered. Maya completed every request without complaint, but she refused to perform the humiliation Claire seemed to expect. That refusal irritated Claire more than open resistance would have. One afternoon, Maya was arranging white roses in the dining room when Claire entered wearing a cream-colored coat and carrying several folders for the foundation dinner. Those are uneven, Claire said. Maya examined the flowers. Which ones? Claire pointed vaguely. All of them. Maya adjusted 2 stems. Better. Claire stared at her. You have an answer for everything. I asked a question. Claire's smile tightened. You should remember that working in a beautiful house does not make you part of the world inside it. Maya set the vase down carefully. I know exactly where I work, Miss Whitmore. Adrian entered before Claire could respond. He carried a folder beneath one arm, his expression unreadable. Is there a problem? Claire immediately softened her voice. Nothing important. Maya returned to the flowers. Adrian looked between them, but said nothing. Later that evening, he found Maya in the pantry checking inventory with Lillian. Miss Bennett. Maya turned. Mr. Park. Did Claire say something inappropriate to you? Lillian became very interested in a stack of napkins. Maya considered. Lying simply to avoid trouble, but dishonesty felt unnecessary. She reminded me that I work here. Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. You already knew that. That was my understanding. A faint trace of amusement crossed his face, then disappeared. If anyone in this house treats you disrespectfully, tell Thomas. Maya nodded. I appreciate that. Adrian walked away, but Claire had been standing beyond the open pantry door long enough to hear the final sentence. Over the next week, preparations for the private dinner intensified. 20 guests were expected, most connected to Adrian's charitable foundation or business network. Claire involved herself in nearly every detail. She selected table linens, rearranged place cards, changed floral arrangements twice, and repeatedly entered service areas where guests normally had no reason to be. On the afternoon of the dinner, Maya passed Claire near the upstairs powder room. A distinctive floral perfume lingered in the hallway after Claire left, rich with jasmine and amber. Maya, Claire called before reaching the stairs. She removed a silk scarf from her shoulders. Take this downstairs for me. Maya accepted it. The perfume clung heavily to the fabric. Where would you like it? Cloakroom. Maya carried the scarf downstairs, delivered it, and returned to her housekeeping cart near the west corridor. Less than an hour later, Lillian called from the pantry because several serving trays had arrived with the wrong linens. Maya left her cart against the wall and went to help. She was gone perhaps 10 minutes. When she returned, the cart seemed slightly different, but a guest asked for assistance before she could determine why. The dinner began soon afterward. Crystal glasses caught the chandelier light. Conversation filled the rooms. Claire moved among the guests, smiling as though nothing in the world could disturb her. Maya continued working quietly along the edge of the evening. Then Claire suddenly touched her wrist. Her smile disappeared. My bracelet. Several guests turned. Claire looked around once, then directly toward Maya. And before anyone had searched a single drawer, her eyes had already found the housekeeping cart. Claire's accusation brought the story back to the exact silence Maya had been standing inside only minutes earlier. The velvet pouch remained in Thomas Reed's hand, unopened, while Adrian Park turned toward Claire with the same controlled expression that made powerful people measure their words around him. You knew where to look, Adrian said. Claire lifted her chin. Because the cart was obvious. Maya watched her carefully. It was against the service wall. Claire hesitated. I saw it earlier. Earlier? Maya asked. When? Claire's eyes sharpened. Are you questioning me now? I am trying to understand why you were certain. A murmur moved through the guests. Adrian raised one hand slightly, and the room became quiet again. Nobody is calling anyone until we know what happened, he said. Claire stared at him. Adrian, my bracelet is worth more than most people make in a year. Its value does not make an accusation true. Maya looked down at the housekeeping cart. Now that nobody was touching it, the details became clearer. The handle faced the wrong direction. One stack of towels leaned slightly to the left. Maya always folded the open edges inward, but the towel beneath the pouch had been folded outward. Someone else had handled it. She stepped closer without touching anything. Then she smelled it. Jasmine and amber. The same perfume that had clung to Claire's silk scarf upstairs. Maya's eyes moved toward the velvet pouch. The scent was faint, but unmistakable. Claire noticed her expression. What? Maya looked at her. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Claire repeated. You have my jewelry in your cart. There is a pouch in my cart, Maya said. Nobody has shown what is inside it. Claire turned toward Adrian. This is ridiculous. She is delaying because she knows exactly what we will find. Maya's gaze remained steady. Then opening it should settle that. Thomas looked to Adrian for permission. Adrian nodded once. Before Thomas could loosen the drawstring, Maya spoke. Wait. Claire exhaled sharply. Now what? Maya pointed toward the cart. I left this here around 7:15 when Lillian called me into the pantry. I was gone. About 10 minutes. Lillian stepped forward from near the service doorway. That is true. She was helping me the entire time. Thomas looked at Maya. Was anyone else near the corridor? I do not know. But the cart was facing the other direction when I left it. Claire gave a dismissive laugh. A cart moved. That is your defense. Maya shook her head. No, it is one detail. Her eyes returned to the pouch. The towel underneath it is folded differently from every towel I prepared tonight. Adrian moved closer and examined the stack without touching it. And Maya hesitated. The perfume suggested something, but she refused to accuse someone with the same carelessness being used against her. And whoever placed that pouch there disturbed the towels. Claire's face tightened. Or you did. Possible, Maya said calmly. Which is why I am not asking anyone to believe me without evidence. Adrian looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. Claire had demanded judgment. Maya was asking for proof. Thomas reached again for the pouch. Maya watched Claire instead of his hands. Go ahead, Claire said quickly. Open it. The bracelet is inside. Thomas froze before touching the drawstring. Maya slowly turned her head. How do you know? Claire's confidence vanished for half a second. Maya's voice dropped. Nobody has opened it. For the first time that evening, Claire Whitmore looked uncertain. It lasted less than a second, but Maya Bennett saw it. So did Adrian Park. Claire recovered quickly and gave a dismissive shrug. Because it is my jewelry pouch. What else would be inside? Maya did not answer. She looked at Thomas Reed. Please open it. Thomas loosened the velvet drawstring and carefully tipped the contents into his palm. A bracelet appeared beneath the chandelier light, bright enough to draw every eye in the room. Claire immediately pointed toward it. There. Now can we stop pretending? Thomas examined the piece without speaking. Maya watched Claire instead. The woman looked relieved. Too relieved. Adrian stepped closer. Is that your bracelet? Obviously. Maya's eyes narrowed. She remembered seeing Claire's jewelry earlier that evening when she carried the woman's scarf from the powder room. The bracelet on Claire's wrist had caught against the silk for a moment. Maya remembered a distinctive emerald clasp surrounded by small diamonds. The bracelet in Thomas's hand had no emerald. No, Maya said. Claire turned sharply. Excuse me. Maya pointed toward the jewelry. That is not the bracelet you were wearing upstairs. The guests became silent again. Claire laughed, but there was no confidence in it. You expect everyone to believe the maid inspected my jewelry? I noticed it because it caught on your scarf. Your bracelet had a green stone at the clasp. Thomas turned the piece over. Plain silver-colored metal reflected the light. No green stone. Adrian looked at Claire. Does your bracelet have an emerald clasp? Claire hesitated. Yes, but she could have switched it. Maya remained calm. Switched it with what? A fake that I happened to bring to work. Claire opened her mouth, then stopped. Adrian's voice stayed level. Let us establish what we actually know. Claire says a bracelet disappeared. A pouch appeared in Maya's cart while Maya was away. Claire knew what she expected us to find before the pouch was opened. And the bracelet inside is not the one she reported missing. Claire's cheeks colored. You are making this sound deliberate. I am repeating the facts. Adrian, you know me. He held her gaze. That is not evidence either. Maya looked again at the velvet pouch. The jasmine and amber perfume remained faintly noticeable. She could have mentioned it immediately, but perfume alone proved nothing. She refused to replace one unsupported accusation with another. Adrian seemed to recognize the restraint. Thomas, he said, was the west corridor accessible to guests? Yes, sir, through the gallery and service passage. Then nobody leaves until we understand what happened. His tone carried no threat, only finality. Claire folded her arms. This is humiliating. Maya looked at her for the first time with something close to sadness. Being questioned is uncomfortable. She paused. Being accused before anyone asks a question is humiliating. Claire looked away. Lillian stepped forward. From the service entrance. There may be something else. Everyone turned toward her. The senior housekeeper twisted her hands together. Before dinner, I saw Miss Whitmore near the cloakroom after Maya brought down her scarf. Claire's head snapped toward her. I was getting something from my coat. Lillian nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. You were alone in there for several minutes. Adrian's eyes settled on Claire. Maya remembered the cream-colored coat Claire had been wearing earlier. She remembered the scarf, the perfume, the missing bracelet, and the false one waiting inside her cart. Then one question became impossible to ignore. If Claire had planted the imitation bracelet, where had she hidden the real one? Adrian Park did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Thomas, have the cloakroom checked. Claire Whitmore stared at him. You cannot be serious. Adrian's gaze remained steady. Your bracelet is still missing. You said you returned to your coat. That makes the cloakroom relevant. Claire looked around at the guests, perhaps expecting someone to object on her behalf. Nobody did. The certainty that had surrounded her only minutes earlier had begun to disappear. This entire situation has become absurd, she said. A valuable bracelet vanishes, something nearly identical appears in her cart, and somehow I am the one being questioned. Adrian glanced toward Maya Bennett. She was questioned before anyone established a single fact. Claire's expression hardened. Because the evidence pointed toward her. No, Adrian replied. An object pointed toward her. Evidence requires context. The room fell quiet. Maya stood beside the cart, saying nothing. She understood what Adrian was doing. He was not declaring her innocent because he trusted her. He was forcing everyone in the room to apply the same standard to Claire that Claire had refused to apply to her. Thomas returned from the hallway. The cloakroom attendant is checking the storage records now. Claire shook her head. This is unnecessary. Adrian turned slightly. Then answer something simpler. Who saw Maya take the bracelet? Nobody spoke. Who saw her enter the room where you last remember wearing it? Again, silence. Claire folded her arms. She was working upstairs. So were 6 other employees. Adrian looked toward Thomas. Correct. Yes, sir. Adrian continued. Who saw Maya place the pouch in her cart? Nothing. Who saw the cart remain untouched while Maya was helping Lillian? No answer. Adrian finally looked back at Claire. Then the only person who entered this room certain of Maya's guilt was you. Claire's face lost color. Because I recognized my pouch. Maya spoke quietly, but not the bracelet inside it. Claire turned toward her. You could have replaced it. When? Maya asked. I was with Lillian during the 10 minutes my cart was unattended. Before that, the pouch was not there. Lillian nodded. She never left the pantry. Claire looked toward Adrian again. You are taking their word over mine? Something changed in his expression. There it is. Claire blinked. What? You think this is about whose word matters more? Adrian stepped toward the table where the imitation bracelet rested beneath the chandelier light. It is not. It is about what can be demonstrated. Maya felt the tension in her shoulders ease for the first time since the accusation began. Adrian was not asking the room to respect her because he had decided she was special. He was demanding that her dignity receive the same protection Claire expected for her own. Thomas returned to the doorway with the cloakroom attendant, a middle-aged woman holding a small ledger. Mr. Park, Thomas said. Miss Whitmore checked her coat at 6:48. According to the attendant, she returned to the cloakroom at 7:22 and asked to be left alone because she needed something from an inside pocket. Claire's lips parted. That proves nothing. Correct, Maya said. Claire looked at her in surprise. Maya continued. So we should not pretend it does. Adrian's eyes briefly met Maya's. Even now, she refused to use suspicion as revenge. Thomas glanced toward the hall. There is one more thing. Miss Whitmore's coat is still in the cloakroom. Adrian gave a single nod. Bring it here. Do not search it. Claire stiffened. Why not? Adrian looked directly at her. Because, unlike what happened to Maya, you will be asked before anyone touches your belongings. Thomas returned carrying Claire Whitmore's cream-colored coat on a wooden hanger, careful to hold it by the hook. The room seemed to shrink around it. Claire stared at the coat as though an ordinary piece of clothing had suddenly become the most dangerous object in the mansion. Adrian Park remained beside the dining table. Claire, do you consent to Thomas checking the pockets? She hesitated. I do not understand why I should have to prove anything. Maya Bennett watched her without satisfaction. Only an hour earlier, nobody had offered Maya that same courtesy before opening her work bag. Adrian's voice remained calm. You do not have to. But your bracelet is missing, and you told us you returned to this coat shortly before dinner. Claire glanced toward the guests. Fine. Search it. Thomas began with the outer pockets. A folded receipt. A package of tissues. Nothing else. Then he reached toward the inside lining. Claire suddenly spoke. Wait. Thomas stopped immediately. Every face turned toward her. There is a private pocket inside, she said. Adrian nodded. Then you may check it yourself. Claire did not move. The silence lasted long enough for the soft clink of glassware from the distant kitchen to reach the dining room. Finally, Claire walked forward, took the coat, and slipped her hand into the inside pocket. Her expression changed before her hand came out. Maya knew. So did Adrian. Claire slowly withdrew a diamond bracelet. At its clasp gleamed a small green emerald. Lillian covered her mouth. Thomas looked from the real bracelet to the imitation piece resting on the table. Nobody said a word. Adrian broke the silence. Is that the bracelet you reported missing? Claire's voice was barely audible. Yes. How did it get into your coat? I must have forgotten I put it there. Maya's eyes remained steady. Then how did the other bracelet get into my cart? Claire turned toward her. I do not know. And the pouch? I said I do not know. Maya could have mentioned the perfume. She could have listed every contradiction. Instead, she asked one question. Why did you know what Thomas would find before he opened it? Claire's face tightened. I made a mistake. Adrian looked at the imitation bracelet. Several mistakes would have to occur in exactly the right order. Claire turned to him. Adrian, please. He did not respond immediately. Maya noticed something then. Claire was no longer addressing the room. She was appealing to the most powerful person in it, the same advantage she had assumed Maya would never possess. Adrian's gaze shifted toward Thomas. The pouch. Thomas handed it to him. Adrian brought it close enough to notice the lingering fragrance. This smells like your perfume. Claire said nothing. Maya finally spoke. The same perfume was on the scarf I carried to the cloakroom. Adrian set the pouch down. The evidence was not dramatic. No single detail alone explained everything. Together, they formed a pattern that was difficult to ignore. The false bracelet, the moved cart, Claire's certainty, the perfume, the real bracelet hidden inside her own coat. Claire looked at Maya, and for the first time there was no superiority in her expression. Only embarrassment. I wanted you gone, she admitted quietly. A stunned silence followed. You embarrassed me in front of Adrian. You made the staff think they could question me. Maya's face softened, not with forgiveness, but disbelief. I helped a woman clean up spilled coffee. Claire lowered her eyes. Adrian remained perfectly still. Maya looked around the room at the guests who had been ready to judge her because a velvet pouch had appeared among her towels. Then she looked back at Claire. You could have asked for respect, Maya said quietly. You did not have to take mine away to feel like you had it. Claire Whitmore's admission did not bring the satisfaction some guests expected. There was no applause, no triumphant smile from Maya Bennett, and no dramatic outburst from Adrian Park. There was only silence, heavier now because everyone understood how easily an innocent woman had nearly been condemned. Adrian looked at the real bracelet in Claire's hand, then at the imitation piece on the table. Thomas, return the pouch and the imitation bracelet to Miss Whitmore. Thomas did so without comment. Claire accepted them with trembling fingers. Adrian, I know this looks terrible. It does not look terrible, he replied. You admitted what you did. Claire lowered her voice. I was angry. I made a stupid decision. Adrian's expression remained controlled. You created evidence to make an innocent employee appear dishonest. I said I was sorry. Maya finally looked at her. You have not. Claire froze. Maya's voice remained calm. You explain why you did it. That is not the same thing. Several guests looked down. Claire swallowed. Maya, I am sorry. Maya studied her for a moment. I hope you mean that someday. Adrian turned toward Claire. You will leave my home tonight. Her eyes widened. Over this. Because of this. Claire glanced around the room, humiliation coloring her face. What about the foundation dinner? The donors? My commitments. Adrian answered without hesitation. Tomorrow you will resign from the foundation board. Claire stared at him. I have given hundreds of thousands of dollars to that foundation. Then those donations helped people. They did not purchase authority over them. Claire's voice sharpened. You would throw away everything I have contributed because of a housekeeper? Adrian's eyes became colder, though his tone never changed. No, because you believed her job made her dignity negotiable. Nobody moved. Claire looked toward Maya, but Maya had already stepped away from the center of the room. Near the service entrance, Lillian was gathering glasses from a side table with hands that still shook slightly. Maya walked over and quietly began helping her. You do not have to do that, Lillian whispered. Maya picked up another glass. Neither do you. Adrian watched them from across the room. That image stayed with him longer than Claire's confession. Maya had just been publicly accused, searched, and forced to defend her integrity before strangers. Yet the first thing she did when the truth emerged was notice someone else who needed help. Claire collected her coat. Before leaving, she stopped near Maya. I really am sorry. Maya met her eyes. Then remember this feeling the next time someone has less power than you. Claire had no answer. Thomas escorted her toward the entrance hall, not as a punishment, but because the evening was over for her. Gradually, conversation returned. Some guests approached Maya with apologies. Others avoided her gaze, embarrassed by how quickly they had believed the accusation. Maya accepted no praise for being innocent. Innocence was not an achievement. Adrian waited until the room had settled before approaching her. Miss Bennett. Maya turned. Mr. Park, I owe you an apology. She looked surprised. You did not accuse me. No, but this happened in my home, under rules I am responsible for. Maya considered that. Adrian continued. Tonight proved that protecting employees cannot depend on whether I happen to be standing in the room. Maya's expression changed. That was not the apology she expected. It was better. She glanced toward the cart, the velvet pouch now gone from the clean towels. Then maybe the problem is bigger than Claire. Adrian followed her gaze. I was thinking the same thing. 3 weeks later, Maya Bennett entered Adrian Park's study expecting a conversation about schedules. Instead, she found a 12-page proposal resting on the desk between them. Adrian gestured toward the chair opposite his. Please sit. Maya did, then looked at the document. Employee protection and household operations. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds serious. It should be. Adrian sat across from her rather than behind the desk. Since the dinner, the estate had changed in ways most guests would never notice. Employees could no longer be searched based solely on a guest's accusation. Missing property had to be documented before personal belongings were examined. Two staff members had to witness any search, and employees had the right to explain what happened before conclusions were made. Adrian had also instructed Thomas to create written procedures for disputes involving guests and staff. Maya turned another page. You did all this in 3 weeks? Thomas did most of it. That sounds more believable. Adrian almost smiled. There is one problem. Maya looked up. What? The person who noticed. Every weakness in the old system is not involved in building the new one. She understood immediately. You mean me? I do. Adrian explained that he wanted her to help oversee employee standards, training, and workplace protections across the estate. The position came with higher pay, formal authority, and regular hours. Maya closed the proposal. Is this because you feel guilty? Adrian did not answer quickly. No. Because you think you owe me? No. His gaze remained steady. It is because you saw what everyone else missed. Maya looked down at the document again. Adrian continued. That night, Claire wanted judgment. I wanted facts. But you were the person who understood the deeper problem before either of us did. Claire was able to use the household itself against you because we had no system designed to protect someone in your position. Maya leaned back. And you are comfortable having a former maid tell you what is wrong with your mansion? I would be more concerned if I surrounded myself with people who only told me what was right with it. That earned a small smile. Maya opened the proposal again. I want Lillian involved in the training program. Agreed. Employees need a confidential way to report guest behavior without worrying about losing shifts. Add it. And nobody gets special treatment because they donate money to your foundation. Adrian's expression softened with recognition. Especially them. Maya studied him for another moment. The man sitting across from her was still powerful. Rooms still became quieter when Adrian Park entered them. But power looked different to Maya now. It was not impressive because it could command obedience. It mattered because of what someone chose to protect with it. She picked up the pen. Then I accept. Adrian nodded once, but the relief in his eyes was unmistakable. Months later, Maya would realize that the cruel setup had changed more than her position in the household. Adrian began asking questions before giving orders. Staff meetings became conversations instead of instructions. Lillian stopped lowering her eyes around wealthy guests. Maya discovered that being respected could open doors she had never expected to approach. And somewhere between policy meetings, morning coffee, and quiet conversations after long workdays, she and Adrian began seeing each other differently too. Neither rushed to name it. Respect came first. Trust followed. Whatever came after would have to be chosen freely by both of them. One evening, Maya passed the same hallway where her housekeeping cart had once stood beneath an accusation. The corridor looked ordinary now. Clean towels, warm light, nothing to mark what had happened there. Adrian approached from the study and stopped beside her. Everything all right? Maya looked around, then smiled. Better than it was. She had entered his mansion believing her job was to clean what people could see. In the end, she had changed what none of them had thought to question.